In September 2019, my brother and I headed for Uluru. He came down to my place, we loaded up the bikes and set off. Along the Bells line of road, over the ranges, we headed west. Our destination for the night will be Cobar. It was a very chilly ride and we had to make several stops along the way just to warm ourselves up in the sun. And we finally made it to Cobar, where we got a motel room for the night. The next day we headed off, another chilly day, and we even managed to swap bikes, here showing the mighty Versys 300. We went and stopped at the Emdale Roadhouse for breakfast, and again to warm up, before continuing on. We stopped at a number of roadside rest areas, again just to rest our bodies and to warm up. Australia certainly is a big country. You can ride for hours like this. After 2 quite long days, we rolled into Peterborough in South Australia and got a hotel room for the night. And yes, that is a motorcycle hanging from the wall of the pub. The next day we set off to Parachilna, which is on the old Ghan railway line, and we explored some of the sites around there. We then stopped at the Copley Bakery for lunch and headed up to Farina, where we explored some of the ruins. We then made it to Maree, where we fueled up and then headed on to the Oodnadatta track and checked out some of the old railway sidings. We eventually made it to Coward Springs, where we camped for the night. It's a lovely spot, I've been here before, and they had natural hot springs, which we took full advantage of. We then set off exploring some of the ruins around the area. After a great night camping, we woke up to a beautiful day, totally unaware of the events that would unfold. We made it into William Creek, where we checked out the local pub and fueled up before setting off again up the Oodnadatta track. It was along this section of road the accident happened. I was out in front, took several minutes to realise my brother wasn't following me. I went back. We're not sure what happened, but it looks like he may have lost his front wheel in the soft sand and took a big tumble over the handlebars. Lucky some people had stopped to help, and they kindly offered to drive him to Cooper PD Hospital. I followed them there. My brother was released from hospital later that day, and we booked into a motel room for a couple of days while he organised to fly back to Sydney and to get his bike transported back to Sydney as well. He later got x-rays done in Sydney, and the doctors at Cooper PD had missed the fact that he'd broken his back in 2 places. Also took a big hit to the head with his helmet, which after a couple of days looked quite funny. He was, however, in surprisingly good spirits. After numerous discussions, and with my brother on a plane back to Sydney and transport for his bike sorted, I continued on my way to the Northern Territory and on to Uluru. This is actually Mount Connor. A lot of people mistake it for Uluru, but it isn't. Still a good sight anyway. I arrived at Uluru for quite late in the afternoon and set up camp, and there's a good viewing spot. You can watch the sunset. And I settled in, had a great feed and some entertainment. I got up very early in the morning and headed out to Uluru to the various viewing platforms to watch the sun come up. It's amazing how it just constantly changes colours as the sun comes up. Every 30 seconds is a great opportunity for another photo. It just never stops. I then headed out to climb the rock along with a lot of other people. It's surprisingly how steep the first bit is. You needed chains to hold onto to make your way up. Some guy behind me photobombed me when I tried taking a selfie. It's a good shot though, I quite like it. The before climbing up to the top. It's a long way up. This is the summit of Uluru. Very rewarding to be up there. I then took a drive around the rock itself, stopping at the various points to look at the rock formations. They had some pretty cool seats around the place too. I also took a ride out to see the ogres. And a quick U-turn for a photo opportunity. Hot day exploring, I headed back to camp. After my rest day at Uluru, I departed, heading for King's Camp. I arrived at Kings Canyon in the afternoon and it was quite hot, so I just did the Kings Creek walk, which is 2.6 kilometres. That was a good time to do it. set up camp, had a few beers, and then made my way to the sunset viewing platform which they have, along with a lot of other people. It was quite spectacular watching the sun going down over the ranges. I got up quite early the next morning and went back to Kings Canyon to do the scenic rim walk, which was absolutely spectacular. A little strenuous, so it was good to do in the coolness. Then it was onto the Morini Loop, heading for Glen Helen Gorge. The views of the West MacDonnell Ranges were absolutely fantastic. I arrived at Glen Helen Gorge, set up camp, went for a swim in their lovely swimming pool, and then went off exploring the area. At Ormiston Gorge there was some music festival on, and there was a lot of people there. It was quite interesting though. I got back and had dinner at the resort, which overlooks the river. It was really a great place. The next day I packed up camp and set off, exploring the ochre pits nearby. And then on top of a hill there was a funny Telstra thing where you could mount your phone to improve reception. It was really quite funny. Then off to explore more gorges along the way to Alice Springs. Stanley Chasm was the only gorge you had to pay to get into, and there had been some bushfires through recently. It was a lovely gorge though, and worth paying the money to explore. I had a rest day in Alice Springs, where I checked out the lookout and a lot of the old buildings around town. The next day I departed Alice Springs, starting my journey home. I stopped to see the old Ghan train at the side of the road before heading into South Australia and Cougar Peating. That night I made it to Glendambo, almost 1,000 kilometres from Alice Springs, where I set up camp. The next day I encountered a massive dust storm and visibility was reduced quite dramatically. Then on a Horrocks Pass, where the windy roads were a great relief from the straight roads I've been on for the last several days. At the top of Horrocks Pass is a really great lookout. I then continued through Peterborough and onward to Broken Hill for the night. Had an amazing dinner in Broken Hill and then headed off the next day to stay at my friend's place in Dubbo, where this journey ends. My brother didn't require any surgery and has since made a full recovery.